Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. The Toronto Blue Jays are heading to the World Series. How are you feeling about their unlikely but stellar run? And what is it that you love about baseball? Can you explain the magic to the rest of the world? Plus, this week, Mark Carney's government will table a bill that aims to make bail harder to get. Port Coquitlam Mayor Brad West has been pushing for bail reform. He will join us, along with a prominent lawyer who says bail reform won't solve public safety issues. That discussion at 12:30. I'm Michelle Elliott. Welcome to BC Today. And thanks for joining us on CBC Radio, CBC Television, and live streaming as well. And call us now if you are a Toronto Blue Jays fan. My gosh, how are you feeling after last night? And what is your favorite thing about baseball? You can give us a call, 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733, or hit pound 690 on your cell phone. Our email address is bctoday@cbc.ca, and we're watching your comments on TikTok as well. Thanks for joining us there. It was the crack of the bat felt across the country.
And a swing and a fly ball to left field. Back goes Rosarena. She's gone!
Well, with that swing, George Springer hit a 3-run home run to give the Toronto Blue Jays a 4-3 lead in the 7th inning of Game 7. 4-3 was the final score over the Seattle Mariners. So sending the Blue Jays to the World Cup for the first time in 32 years. Well, this latest Blue Jays playoff comeback is now regarded as one of the biggest moments in team history, and follows only behind Joe Carter's home run in Game 6 to clinch the '93 World Series for the team. We want to hear from you now. If you are a Toronto Blue Jays fan, how are you feeling after yesterday's win? Even if you're a Mariners fan, many in BC, it was a great game, and you can share your thoughts as well. Are you jumping on the Blue Jays bandwagon now? You can give us a call, 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. Let us know about your own favorite baseball moments and baseball things. What's so magical about the sport? I'd love to hear from you. And our email as well is bctoday@cbc.ca. I'm pleased to welcome my guest. Chris Pritchett is the head coach for the UBC Thunderbirds baseball team. Hello, thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Okay, tell us about last night. How was it for you?
Well, I was lucky enough to get home in time for work to watch the last 7 innings, and I was with my sons on the couch, and it was electric when George Springer hit that home run. I mean, there was tension building, and some wasted opportunities. So you're just like, they're so close, and it's like, we just need that one swing, and it was pretty magical. So I'm pretty fired up today. I know our staff was fired up. We were texting back and forth, and all of our players had watch parties. So it was a pretty big deal in the baseball world here in Canada. So we're all pretty excited.
All of that with a bad knee too, right?
Both knees. Yeah, no, I didn't think he was going to play. You're talking about Springer.
Yeah.
So yeah, just to see him on the field, and he's like, you could see the whole team feeds off his energy. So having him out there was a plus, whether he produced or not. But to be able to come up with that at that moment was just unbelievable. So what a moment in baseball Canada history, not just the Blue Jays.
I gotta tell you, that buzz that you were talking about with, I'm sure more so with people you work with, being the head coach of the Thunderbirds baseball team, but even here in the newsroom, just the chatter, best game I've ever seen, just a lot of excitement. Can you take me through how unexpected this was, how they overcame?
Well, I think it was that the 5th game of that, the bat flip with Bautista, or back in the, I don't know, it was about 2018 maybe. That was like that really changed. I think even grassroots, you got so many more fans after that series. And so many people were watching this that don't normally watch. You
Right.
call them bandwagon or whatever, but they're rooting for the home team, and they are fired up. I'm getting texts and emails from people I didn't even know watch baseball, and they are so excited and they are all in. So just with really, I mean, one swing of the bat, although I mean a lot went on in that series, of course, but that just has brought so many people on board. I mean, this is going to be a very widely watched World Series when you look at the Dodgers and the Blue Jays now. So
Yes.
I just can't wait for Friday.
Well, that's it, and tickets on sale already. So yeah, I mean, any indication as to the interest there? Sold out. Let's take some calls here. Chris Pritchett is with me. I'm so pleased to welcome him. He's head coach for UBC's Thunderbirds baseball team. We're talking baseball. And just let us know how you're feeling after last night, Game 7. Toronto Blue Jays heading for the World Series, Game 1 on Friday against the Dodgers. And so let us know how you're feeling right now in this moment, soaking it all in. And let us know, too, what is it about baseball that is so magical? Love to hear from you. 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733, or just hit pound 690 on your cell phone. Michael is calling from Kamloops. Hi, Michael. What was it last night like for you watching that game? Hi, Michael. Are you there? Okay, we've lost our connection with Michael, but he did watch last night's game and wanted to talk about how he got into baseball. Love to hear from you, Michael. So it's 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. Can you tell me, Chris, you coach UBC baseball, and I've watched I'm not a huge baseball fan. I did watch last night, but I've watched my nephews play, right? So like I've gone to the community to watch baseball. What is it about this sport that people love, that draws people to it?
Well, I think that it's easily identifiable. So, when you play basketball, it just feels like you've got to be like 7 feet tall or you can't play at the highest level. Or football, you've got to be 300 pounds or just extremely fast. I mean, when you look at our game, it just comes in all shapes and sizes. And I think it's just something that dads and sons and dads and daughters sons and moms and daughters shared at least at the little league level. So there's an ability to understand what these guys are going through at the highest level, some of the trials and tribulations, and how hard it is. And to watch these guys play at that level, I just feel like everyone has a bit of an understanding when you're standing there in the batter's box, like George Springer, like what's going through your head right there. And then understanding like they've had, some sort of an experience that they can kind of understand, at least on some granular level, like how exciting that is. And I think that's sort of the draw for many people. And you look at, hitting the ball in the park, like all the different sayings that come from baseball are just so mainstream that it's, yeah, I think it's just easily to fall in love with it. And if you're a Mariners fan, you maybe not today. Like it's so a game that's built on failure, and it's really hard to overcome that. It's yeah, I just feel like everyone can kind of understand a piece of it.
And to that end, I think that's what Michael from Kelowna was wanting to talk about, the generations that come to watch baseball games. And he said he got into
Right.
baseball watching it with his grandparents. Let's
Exactly.
let's go to Denise now in Surrey. Hi, Denise. How are you feeling today? Do we have Denise on the line? We might be having some phone issues here. We're trying to get her back on the line. Hi, Denise. Can you hear me?
I can. How are you?
I am fine and extra fine now that you're on the line. Tell me about how you're feeling.
I am ecstatic. I'm thrilled. I remembered the last time, 1993. I was hooked. It was fantastic. I would have been happy for both teams, but as a Canadian, I'm super pumped for the Blue Jays. I actually I was so full of tension. I actually switched different seats in front of the TV, and it wasn't working. So I actually turned it off, went upstairs, got ready for bed, and then I went and checked the score, and I had a text message from my sister in Alberta, in Edmonton, and she said, they won! And I was like, so quickly ran back downstairs, turned the TV on to see the replay, and I still get goosebumps thinking about it right now because it was so fantastic to see Springer and the joy on all the team, and it was such a team effort, and it was just, it was so wonderful for Canada, and so very, very happy for the Toronto Blue Jays.
Denise, thank you very much. Great to hear from you. I love that you had to move. Just the tension was too high. Are you like that? Are you like that, Chris?
I think all baseball people are superstitious, like it's crazy, but again, you talk about how people can identify it, like they feel like they have a connection. My mom's the same way. She'll move seats or she'll close her eyes or say a rosary as things are happening. I think like everyone feels like they're involved, and yeah, from wearing socks that like, if you get a hit one day, you're going to wear the same pair of socks the next day. And the fans are the same way, like they're connected. And, in baseball, if you got a no-hitter going, you don't talk to the pitcher. And if things aren't going well, people shuffle around in the seats in the dugout. Like it's very funny. But yeah, it's a game of momentum, but we feel like everyone feels like they have a connection and have a role to play. And it's pretty funny that, people at home are turning it off and feeling the tension and that kind of thing. So I think that's the connection to baseball. And it's wonderful to hear Denise's experience, and not uncommon for me to hear people feeling like they change shirts or seats or whatever to help with the outcome. It's awesome.
Yeah, and then seeing the euphoria at the end, right? It's just like the release of all that tension.
Yeah, right. I mean, you look at like thinking of how nervous she was at home, like George Springer's in the box with 44,000 people screaming and yelling. And, he looks calm as a cucumber. But then when the game's over, you see the emotion on these guys' player, and to see them be able to channel that is pretty special.
That's right. That really stands out for me watching last night. Just the immense pressure and just how steely-eyed they were in the face of that. Michael is back now from Kamloops. Hi, Michael.
I'm here.
Hello. Well, okay, so tell us about watching the game last night and what you love about the sport of baseball.
Well, I grew up playing minor ball as a kid, and I think I really got into it, in my minor age or my young age, going to my grandparents' house because it was always on TV, probably just as much as soap operas back then, back in the late 80s and early 90s. And I remember watching Joe Carter hit that home run. That's what, 35 or 32 years later now?
Yeah.
But now you look at all the kids that play, whether it's organized or not organized, and, all the rec leagues that we have in Canada. I think it's such a popular sport, and everybody that you talk to is talking about this right now because, hockey's just started, but everybody turns on the Jays when they're in the playoffs. And I think it brings a lot of households together. I know my daughter was into it. My wife heard me screaming last night. So we look forward to Friday and Saturday.
Fantastic, Michael. Thank you. I'm glad we got you back on the line. Let's go to the Okanagan Valley now. And Eliza is calling. How are you feeling, Eliza? Or Eliza? My apologies.
I am over the top. I am higher than a kite. I cannot say how much I loved that game last night and the whole series. And to lose 2 at the beginning of the 7, I thought, oh, no. And then they went to Seattle, and they did so well. I just can't say enough about baseball. I've always loved it forever and a day. And to watch these guys, especially when there's 11 on the team that have never been in postseason, I thought, wow, are we going to do it? Are we going to do it? And we had a house full screaming our heads off last night. So like you can hear in my voice, I'm still way over the moon.
I'm imagining just what it sounded like. Why have you been a fan all your life?
My older brothers played, and I got dragged around to baseball forever, and I fell in love with it, and I've loved it ever since. I kind of drifted a bit for a while there. drifted away from it, but now that I'm retired, I can watch games all I want, and I've watched the Jays all summer long, and I just love them.
Thank you so much for the call, and you nurse
You
you
bet.
nurse that voice, okay, Eliza?
Well, okay, bye-bye.
That's Eliza calling from the Okanagan. And what she said there about them being down 2 at the start of the series, that's what I was referring to in terms of unlikely. Someone emailed and said, why would you say it was an unlikely success? That's why I was on the edge of my seat because of that. And I couldn't believe it, when they went into game 3. So, Chris, you mentioned this earlier, right? All the kind of sayings that come from baseball. We were throwing a whole bunch around just as we were coming up here to set. And I think about all the movies, the big movies that are embedded in pop culture. Like just think about Field of Dreams, right? Can you explain to me why it is such an it's become such an integral part of culture, even beyond the sport itself?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, and you just mentioned Field of Dreams. Like the whole theme of the whole, that thing is being able to play catch with your dad. And almost all of us can identify with that. We're crying watching a baseball movie based on just the connection to family in the game.
Yeah.
The last caller being dragged around to the ballpark with her
Yes.
brothers. And it has its own language. And when you get to be part of it, it just becomes a part of who you are. And like you said, we mentioned some of the sayings that are pretty mainstream, but it just is a whole understanding. And once you get started, you share it with all baseball fans and players. And I think that's all the connection. But yeah, the people that have gone to the Nat here with their dad, and I've been able to take my sons. I got to play there, I got to coach there, like just the connection, and it runs through the whole baseball community here. So it's pretty cool. So you look at why people are so excited. I think it's that grassroots connection and Baseball Canada at that level, like they do such an amazing job of getting kids involved and families, and it just becomes a part of you the rest of your life.
Annie Hall 90 posted on TikTok. I was so nervous in the 7th inning, but I just had this hope. It just had to be. It just had to be. Yeah. Were you moving around your living room as well, Annie? Moving from chair to chair? I imagine so. Thank you for the comment. We have a caller now, Doug in Salmon Arm, who I think has a special connection. Hi, Doug. Thanks for calling in.
Hi there. How are you doing today?
I am well. Thanks very much. What's your, tell us about your own excitement and your own connection to the Blue Jays.
So 2 years ago, my nephew, Sam Shaw, who is from Victoria, was drafted in the 9th round and 274th overall. And he and Trey, at the beginning of the year, back in April, were actually teammates.
Well, Trey is savage.
And so, yeah, Trey is Savage, the young 22-year-old who pitched not yesterday's game, but the day before. And so I just feel like not only do I have a connection to the team and remembering the 92 and 93 World Series, I now have like a family blood connection to the team because my nephew's part of the whole Jays organization, right?
Oh, that's wonderful. Go ahead.
So shortly after Trey came to Vancouver, he went off and went to AA and AAA and then eventually to the majors. Sam actually came up and played for the Canadians too.
Fantastic.
So it just is phenomenal. And, I own a delivery business here in the Salmon Arm. And I was doing a delivery for one of the restaurants yesterday, and I was in the middle of the restaurant when George Springer came up to bat.
Oh.
And when he hit that 3-run dinger, the whole restaurant cheered, like they let out a breath of relief and excitement all in one. And people were high-fiving everyone. And I'm like the lady who moves from chair to chair. I can't watch playoff baseball, but I've been following it sort of on the screens as I pop into the restaurant and go out. But I've also been following it. Like I put in Google Jays game today, and I've been following the games through my phone.
Yeah. That's an added element is being, even if you step away, being able to at least keep track. I've had that experience many times. Doug, thank you very much for your call, and great to hear. I'm picturing you in the middle of that restaurant in the right time at the right place, just hearing the cheer and the euphoria. Jane is our last caller right now from Nelson. Hi, Jane.
Hi.
How are you feeling? What was last night like for you?
Oh, I'm just really excited. Yeah. It's like everybody. It's such a relief. I mean, it's been a real roller coaster ride this year. If you've been I watch every game, and started watching the team. My PVR starts recording baseball in spring training, and so I go, oh, baseball season's starting. I better watch and see how the Jays are doing. And I looked at a few partial games in spring training and thought, they look like they're going to be pretty good this year. And so, yeah, I've watched every game they've played this year. Some of them okay on, fast forward because they weren't doing well in that game. But, you just knew that there was something happening that was special. The people they brought together, it was like a jigsaw puzzle. They pieced together the team. And the athleticism, and then the bond that seemed to be amongst the players. They all talked about it after that, they're part of a family and they play for each other. And, so it's nerve-wracking, but it's fun.
Jane, thank you very much. You hit the nail on the head there. Nerve-wracking, but in the end, right? As of yesterday, anyway, we're heading now into the World Series. But as of yesterday, it all worked out like a fairy tale. Jane, thank you very much for the call. We're going to pause for an ad break now for our TV audience. We will be back with you in 2 minutes from now. And Chris Pritchett is my guest. He's the head coach for UBC Thunderbirds baseball team. I want to read this email to you, Chris. And this is from Stephanie in Nanaimo, who says, this will be an epic series, Dodgers versus Jays. My husband has been a Dodgers fan since he was a little boy. My first vacation was six months after we got together back in 1998. Little did I know I'd be watching the Dodgers win with the help of Kirk Gibson's walk-off homer. I am a Dodgers fan by association. Went to Game 2 of the World Series last year at Dodger Stadium. All this to say, we will be cheering for LA, but I would not be so upset if the Jays won. Thank you for admitting that. And you're in good company. So, Chris, what do you think of their chances heading into the World Series?
Yeah, seeing what they just did, you mentioned unlikely. Well, losing the first 2 games at home that was really tough to overcome. To see them do that, I just can't put anything past them. They're playing a really good team in Los Angeles. I mean, their starting pitching is unbelievable. I think my hope is that they're just riding this momentum and what they've been able to do together. And again, this team, the way they blended together at the end, and kudos to the front office for thinking outside the box. No big splash free agents. They were just really, brilliant the way they put this together with some from within, and then it's just some really key pieces that molded together. My thing is that I think only having 3 days off before they play again is a bit of an advantage for the Blue Jays. I think these first 2 games at home, the Dodgers will have been off they clinched early, so they haven't played in a while. So my hope is that the Blue Jays are going to stay a little bit as far as timing goes, and then just the feeling they have and that momentum gives them enough. I think it's going to be a great series, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, and I think she went to that point as well, the heart that they had, even heading into the last series too. I'm going to end on this wonderful email. Marianne writes, hope this wonderful team encourages you to get out and fill up those baseball fields in your neighborhood. It will teach you so much about getting along socially and create the good feelings of sports. Go for it. Mary Ann, great way to sum up our conversation. Chris, so great to have you. Thank you very much for joining us.
No, I appreciate it. That was fun. Thank you for having me.
Glad
Go
you
Jays.
Go Jays. Chris Pritchett, the head coach for the UBC Thunderbirds baseball team. It is 12:30 now. You're with BC Today. I'm Michelle Elliott. Very nice to be with you this afternoon. Thanks so much for being with us. And coming up in our next half hour, we are going to discuss a bill that is going to be introduced this week by the federal Liberal government, and it has to do with bail reform. That's a key element of this bill anyway. All to, as they say, crack down on crime. We're going to talk about how effective that might be, asking you, do you believe bail reform will help improve public safety? We'll have two guests coming up and joining us as well. Right now it is time for a CBC News update, and here's Stephanie Mercier.
Good afternoon. Vancouver City Council is considering creating a new corporation to develop thousands of units of market rental housing on 6 city properties. The idea is on the agenda at today's council meeting. It would see the city become the sole shareholder of the corporation with a mandate to develop and manage the homes. The city estimates the completion of 3 developments in a decade would bring in $56 million a year in net revenue. A new affordable housing building has opened on Salt Spring Island. The Ministry of Housing says the building has 36 units. A statement says residents who are on income or disability assistance will pay the provincial shelter rate. Employed residents will pay approximately 30% of their income for rent. And the Pacific Whale Watch Association says a humpback whale calf has been spotted with a deep gash near its dorsal fin, consistent with a ship strike. The Department of Fisheries and Oceans has confirmed a Hullo ferry struck a humpback whale in English Bay on Friday. It is not clear if it is the same animal. The group is asking boaters to keep their distance from the mother and calf if they see them. That's a look at the CBC News from Vancouver. Now looking at the BC weather along the north coast, clouds with a chance of showers. Windy for some coastal areas this afternoon, a high of 11 degrees. For the Peace region, clearing this afternoon with a high of 11. For the central interior, also clearing, a high up to 10. For the southeast, clearing and a high of 12 degrees. For the southern interior, sunshine, a high up to 13. And along the south coast, also clearing this afternoon, a high of 14 in Vancouver, 13 in Victoria, and 15 degrees in Abbotsford. And now it's back to BC Today with Michelle Elliott.
Thank you, Stephanie. That's Stephanie Mercier in the CBC Vancouver newsroom. This is BC Today. I'm Michelle Elliott. Thanks for being with us. And last Friday, we talked about artificial intelligence and its impact on youth employment. We asked you about the impact of AI on your industry and how young people starting out in their careers can adapt. We talked to a digital instructor and the head of employment with Mosaic BC. We got these emails too. Ellie writes from Vancouver, of course, AI can be helpful for healthcare purposes with things like improved early cancer diagnosis. But when it comes to creativity, as a musician myself, I'd encourage citizens to boycott films and music that use AI instead of real humans. We can't just let art and music turn into soulless garbage for convenience. We need art and music to be in the realm of true human expression, or else we will lose an invaluable part of our human experience. Britt writes from Souk, I'd like to mention that employers need to recognize that many jobs are not as complex as they once were. The insistence on 3 to 5 years experience, as an example, is often intended to keep people out. We need to change that. Many tasks have become simpler over time and do not require the same deep learning they once might have. And Tom writes from Richmond, there will be no future jobs for today's youth as the data centers required to facilitate AI gobble up so much fresh water and cooling the massive energy required for the technology. Think of the drought conditions we're already experiencing, the subsequent wildfires. No jobs on a scorched earth. The tech will have to be stopped ASAP for the biosphere to have a chance of revitalizing sustainability for life in balance with nature. Thank you to all of you for your comments. You can always send us your thoughts, bctoday@cbc.ca. It's 12:35 now. You're with BC Today. Well, the federal Liberal government will table legislation this week aimed at cracking down on crime. And a key element is bail reform, introducing what's called reverse onus bail for some crimes. Here's Prime Minister Mark Carney speaking last week.
In most bail hearings, the starting point is to release. And the Crown must prove why someone should not be released on bail, making it too easy for repeated violent offenders to quickly get back on the street, sometimes back into the same communities that they just committed crimes in. Our new law will flip that script by creating new reverse onus bail provisions for violent and organized crime-related offenses.
That's Prime Minister Mark Carney. Now, bail reform is something a number of BC mayors have called for, arguing chronic offenders keep returning to the community. Some legal groups, however, say reverse onus bail won't solve the real issues around crime. We're taking your calls on this. Do you believe bail reform will improve public safety? Call us now. Just hit pound 690 on your cell phone or dial 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. You can also leave a comment on TikTok or email us at bctoday@cbc.ca. I'm pleased to welcome two guests for this conversation. Brad West is mayor of Port Coquitlam. Rob Dhanu is a former Crown prosecutor, now a defense lawyer and co-founder of Dhanu Dhaliwal Law in Abbotsford. Good afternoon to both of you. I believe we do have them on the line. I'll go to you first, Mayor West. This has been an ongoing issue, an ongoing call for you and other mayors as well. What are your thoughts on this announcement that a federal bill on bail reform is coming?
Well, I'm pleased to hear that, and I certainly think that it's going to help. Is it going to solve all of our problems? No. But certainly it has to be part of the answer to what we see in far too many communities, which is an incredibly small number of people who are committing a very large number of crimes and continue to do so. In some instances, they're being released so quickly, it just make your head spin. And so I think that's why you've seen quite a diverse group of mayors that kind of span the political spectrum come together and say that this has to be part of government's response to what we're seeing in our communities.
What has been the impact on Port Coquitlam?
Well, I mean, I've heard firsthand from police officers who are incredibly frustrated because they are arresting the same individual over and over and over again. So we know that you can almost set your watch to having an individual who's a prolific offender be released and have an uptick in crime. And so for a community, it's incredibly frustrating, whether it be, theft from property, for businesses, whether it be shoplifting, or spanning into even violent crime. So people are fed up. They've had enough of it, and they are looking for government to be responsive and to ensure that the public is protected.
Mr. Dhanu, you've called the focus on bail reform a red herring, and why is that?
Well, it's so important to have an honest conversation about what is happening here. And to have that conversation, we have to understand the motivation behind these types of announcements. And there is incredible pressure on all levels of government to do something about the public disorder that Mayor West is describing, and rightfully so. The issue, however, is in terms of what is being proposed by the federal government currently in terms of these four different pillars and further funding. At the end of the day, we have to assess, is this going to make a difference on the streets where we can observe less crime? And I have to say it's a resounding no.
Why? Why do you not think it won't make a difference? Why do you not think it will make a difference?
Well, what's happening here is it's a rewrapping of the old. So in terms of these four pillars, the primary pillar seems to be what's described as new reverse onus provisions. And the problem with that is that we already have reverse onus provisions in the criminal code, whether it's terrorism, organized crime, repeat violent offending, and repeat domestic offenders most recently. So we're not really adding anything new. So there may be some more provisions that are subject to reverse onus, but it's nothing new for the criminal code. The other factor here in terms of reverse onus is that 2 years ago, we added more reverse onus provisions when it came to violent offenders as well as to repeat domestic offenders. And are we seeing a difference on the streets? I don't think so. The other big provision here is Prime Minister Carney has talked about we're going to have consecutive sentences now. Once again, this is a rewrapping of the old. We already have consecutive sentences. A judge has to order consecutive sentences when a crime is different in nature or takes place at a different time. So once again, a bit of a rewrapping.
Rather than concurrent sentencing. Let me just go to our calls here before I go back to my guest, asking you again, our audience, do you believe that bail reform will help improve public safety? Our number is again 604-669-3733, 1-800-825-5950, or just hit pound 690 on your phone. You can also email bctoday@cbc.ca. Let me go through the numbers again, just so you can get it if you haven't called us before. 604-669-3733, 1-800-825-5950. Lyndon is calling us from Victoria. Hi, Lyndon. What do you think of bail reform?
Well, I've been waiting for a bill like this for a long time, and I've been urging the federal government to put something like this into place through my local MPs. But yeah, I'm happy to see something along this road, and I have faith in the new Prime Minister and cabinet to move forward with it.
Why is it something that you've actually lobbied your MPs about? Why do you feel so strongly about it?
Living in Victoria and the area here, we've had consistent, just like I think around the rest of the province, we've had issues with people that have multiple theft records or multiple assault charges, or repeat people that are just let out again, causing chaos in the community, causing problems for businesses, safety, etc. And I want to see basically more consequences for that at some point. I mean, we have to have compassion on one end, but I think we need to see some kind of long, some more consequences for it. Otherwise, it's just a repeating door cycle, I think. So, yep.
Lyndon, thank you so much. Good to hear from you in Victoria. Let me go to you, Mr. Dhanu, on that. He's describing what he sees in Victoria. And municipalities will give examples. In Kelowna, they have given the example of last year, 15 individuals accounting for 1,300 police files. And so when you hear that, those concerns are, and that's where that revolving door idea comes from. How do you address that then?
Well, I think those are completely valid concerns. I don't think there's anyone who's not noticing increased disorder in every urban center.
That they point to several individuals who are repeat offending, yeah.
Oh, exactly. So we have to focus on those individuals, but the question is, why are they repeat offending? What is the root cause of their repeat offending? And this is where we're missing the boat here. So when we take a look at statistics, that shows us that crime is actually down from the 1990s in a fairly linear level, but it is up in the short term since the pandemic, in terms of violent crime as well as theft type crime. So if we look at the laws and bail laws, pre-pandemic and post-pandemic, well, they're basically exactly the same. So if the laws didn't change, but crime is up, we have to ask ourselves, why is crime up? Well, the issues are fairly obvious, and we talk about them all the time in the media and in the public, and that is, there's mental health issues that have been that have remained unresolved. There's an opioid crisis that is still unchecked. We are in a recession. The economy is down. There's increasing joblessness, and there's homelessness. So until you actually attack those areas at all levels, we're not going to see a big difference.
Mayor West, how do you address the criticism that this is just an easy political issue, jumping on bail reform? And I know you talked about it's not the only thing. There are other measures that you're calling for, I know, which including hiring more Crown prosecutors and mandatory treatment, which is something the province has been pushing for. But how do you address the nuances as to how bail reform will actually work? We've heard from Mr. Dhanu that it does exist already to a certain extent. But in terms of the practicality of reverse onus bail, how do you address the nuances around that?
Well, look, I'm obviously not a legal expert like the gentleman is, but the reality is I think we need follow through. If if indeed it's correct that this is just a duplication of what already exists, then I guess the question that needs to be posed is, then why aren't we seeing the follow through? I am always very suspicious of flashy government announcements from the province or the feds around we're going to do this or we're going to do that, and then it doesn't happen. And I do think part of it is the follow through. I also think there's a question here around the decisions that the system makes, and I think there has to be some pretty significant thought put to, why is it that so many of our decision makers in the legal and judicial system seem to be failing the public, and not, just once in a while, but with some regularity. When I think about the consequence of the decision to release an individual on bail in Kelowna who then went and murdered his ex-wife, there are unfortunately a number of examples that we can point to. They're not just aberrations; they're happening with a level of regularity that I think suggests that the system itself is in need of serious reform. So, yeah, it's not just some politicians making announcements and changing laws. It's the follow through. It's the interpretation, and then it's ultimately the decisions that are being made in relation to all of this. Think about individuals who are released from Colony Farm Forensic Psychiatric Institute in the Tri-Cities, where I represent. We've had a number of examples of individuals who have been granted release from that facility, who have then gone on to hurt and, in fact, even kill innocent people. So I am concerned that this system seems very, very comfortable or too comfortable with rolling the dice on placing individuals who have been repeat offenders, in many cases violent offenders, and is very predisposed towards release over detention. And we have seen the consequences of that play out.
I'm going to go to Mr. Dhanu on that case. I think you're referring to the Bailey McCourt, the killing of Bailey McCourt.
That's correct.
And the person who's charged, the man who's charged with second-degree murder, is someone who had been convicted of domestic violence just before that incident. Mr. Dhanu, I know you've talked about this particular case, and what does it tell us about the justice system then?
Well, what happened, number one, to Ms. McCourt is an absolute tragedy, and there's no judge or crown or defense lawyer who would ever wish that upon anyone. But the issue here is that we are living in a democracy, and the problem that our politicians have is that in a democracy, you can only change laws around the edges. Now, if you want to create a system where all the individuals that we have who are accused of a crime stay in jail and we are completely safe, that's no longer democracy, that's authoritarianism. So we have to understand that if we want a completely safe system, then we're also throwing out the charter. And I'll give an example of a place like Dubai. People say that I can leave my wallet on the hood of my car in Dubai and go shopping for 2 hours, and I'll be right there where I left it. Well, the problem with those types of states is that you can also go to jail for saying the wrong thing about the government or wearing the wrong types of clothes. So it's a balance. It's not a perfect balance. Our court system is not perfect. They do try to get it right, but there are mistakes that happen, and that is the difficulty of trying to preserve our rights and interests and also trying to keep the public safe.
My guests are Rob Dhanu, a former Crown prosecutor, now a defense lawyer and co-founder of Dhanu Dhaliwal Law, and Brad West, mayor of Port Coquitlam. We're taking your calls asking you, do you believe bail reform will help improve public safety? And this is in light of a bill that's slated to be introduced this week by the federal government. It's aimed at strengthening or at combating crime, and its key element is bail reform, introducing reverse onus bail for some major crimes. I've got an email here as well before we go back to our calls. Our number again, 604-669-3733. 604-669-3733, 1-800-825-5950. Email is bctoday@cbc.ca. And Randy writes, the issue of bail reform is the over-amplified echo of the Americans' push for the same. It is hardly relevant in Canada and a weak attempt to show that a federal initiative to be tough on crime as a distraction for the larger issues. The bigger issue, in my humble opinion, is the inequality of the justice system, where the wealthy and entitled hire expensive legal representation, get parole and community service, while the poor get prison time. The system is set up to rarely ever change, and it probably won't. That's from Randy at bctoday@cbc.ca. Let's go back to our callers now. Kim is on the line from Vernon. Hi, Kim. What are your thoughts on bail reform?
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for having me. So my thoughts, I just want to preface this by saying I'm a former foster kid, and I'm also a social worker. I work with the Ministry of Children and Family Development, but these thoughts and opinions are my own. So before we focus on bail reform, I really do think we should focus on the foster care system. So as we know, foster youth and former foster youth are overrepresented in our criminal justice system, and there are many reasons for that. One of the biggest reasons that young offenders start to get involved within our criminal justice system is we simply do not have enough foster homes, like family foster homes. So a lot of our teens end up in what are called group homes, and in like a quote unquote normal family situation, if there was some sort of disagreement, or perhaps your child didn't come home by curfew, you would probably deal with that yourself. But unfortunately, within a staffed group home, they have to call the RCMP. And a study in 2016 actually says that a foster child is more likely to receive like a criminal record before they get a high school diploma. And so to me, that says that there needs to be far more intervention before these young people even get connected to the criminal justice system. And this also affects like youth aging out of care. So it's in that sort of crucial time when they're like 19 and older. So they don't have the same supports as their peers who may have family or whomever, and they face increased levels of reoffending and then becoming involved with the criminal justice system. So those are my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kim. That's Kim in Vernon. Paul is on the line now in Vancouver. Do you think bail reform will help improve public safety, Paul?
Well, it's a start, but when you have people talking about what should we do about crime, should we do this or that, and the people that make the decisions concerning like the judges and the various agencies that are involved with this sort of thing, most of these people don't have to live with the results of their decisions. So if we had the criminals that are being charged moved in, leave the judges to decide whether they would rather the perpetrator live with him in his own house or be in a jail cell, I think that would resolve a lot of these issues right away, because most of these people are not really in touch with life on the street where people have to live with these crimes. They live in ivory towers, so they don't really understand the ramifications of their compassion. See, they have this, they want to help people, but they're not really helping people because they don't understand the ramifications of their decisions to allow criminals to run rampant for any of a number of reasons. For instance, because they come from a different country where they don't have the same laws, or they come from deprived situations. So that's the way I see it. It seems like a practical solution. Give the judges a choice. Would you like to have these criminals live in your house with you, or would you prefer them in a jail cell? I think that would simplify it.
Paul, thank you for the call from Vancouver. Our last caller is Ben at Fort St. John. Hi, Ben. Your thoughts on bail reform?
Yeah. Firstly, I'd like to say that anything that we can do right now to help alleviate the current situation we're in is going to be a help. And although I can understand the argument, it's brought up often that we're still not attacking the root causes of the crime, doesn't negate the fact that we've got a problem right now. And to me, it's akin to firefighters showing up to a house fire, and instead of putting out the fire, they're arguing about how the fire started. I think that there's room for helping alleviate the current situation we're in with repeat offenders, especially violent ones, that will help ease the social disorder. That doesn't mean that we can't still attack the root causes. But right now we have a house on fire, and we have to put the fire out. That's just the reality.
Ben, thank you for the call from Fort St. John. Let me go back to Rob Dhanu, who's a lawyer. What would you like to see then? What's a set of solutions that you'd like to see?
Well, I think Kim's call was great. So actually, the where we need to focus our attention is on the system and how to make that system better. And Kim talks about the foster care system. Well, when we look at I'll go east here first. When we look at Manitoba, Crown prosecutors there have actually filed a grievance saying that they have 20% less prosecutors than they need. So they are not able to deal with the bail files that come on their desk in the morning in an adequate manner so that mistakes are made. And we see in Ontario that they're actually addressing part of the failures of the system by creating more integrated teams between the Crown and the police so that they're talking to each other and targeting repeat violent offenders, making electronic monitoring more available for bail so that offenders are better monitored, as well as trying to go after bail monies and then putting that bail money back into the system. So we need to take a look at the system and see how it can be improved so it's actually effective. And that, unfortunately, requires time, money, and expertise, which is why it's a lot easier to say jail, no bail, or to make announcements that are really rewraps.
And in my last minute, Brad West, a final word from you. What else would you like to see then besides bail reform?
Well, I certainly agree with the gentleman who said that we need to be doing both. There is no question that there is significant government failures to address challenges around mental health, income inequality, etc. But that cannot be used as an excuse to allow individuals to repeatedly commit crimes. There has to be, at some point, a degree of accountability and public safety prioritization, despite the fact that we certainly do not live in a perfect world when it comes to having all the necessary support systems that should be there. So yes, we'll continue to advocate for that, but we also have to deal with the reality that we find ourselves in, which is we have a small number of individuals who are harming too many people in our communities.
Thank you so much to both of you for this discussion. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.